Anyway, injury news. So there are a couple of changes today, right, Sal?
Yeah, a couple changes today. So Shaq Thompson, it appears, he is dealing with a hamstring injury. Remember yesterday we said it was vet rest was told to us by Sean McDermott he'd be out for vet rest, and then all of a sudden he appeared on the injury report with a hamstring injury. But he did do some media yesterday, which I thought was encouraging, but he didn't practice today with that hamstring injury. So we'll see where it goes tomorrow. I'll have Sean McDermott on the Extra Point Show tomorrow, and we'll get an idea maybe of if something is serious enough to hold him out of the game on Sunday or what that looks like. Matt Prater, we had a lot of talk yesterday about him limited again with the right calf, so that is something to monitor now. It is something to monitor and look at. But limited means he did get work in today, so that's encouraging. But who knows what happens, by the time the weekend comes around. And then Josh Palmer, the encouraging news is he was back on the field. Now, it is Thursday. He's only limited after missing a day yesterday. It feels to me like maybe this is something that you're maybe a week away, right? But we'll see. Maybe he felt really good today, and tomorrow we find out that, they're going to see how it goes through the weekend before making a determination.
It's wild how quickly things can change. Shaq Thompson not practicing with a hamstring injury 3 weeks ago on the same injury report where Milano and Bernard both practiced full, probably doesn't even barely get mentioned on our shows, right? And here we are, fast forward a few weeks, Bernard and Milano practicing full. Shaq Thompson, I know, Sal, we talked about it yesterday, and I heard you again this morning that, maybe he's in a spot to have a much bigger role here, depending on the matchups. Maybe it's, down and distance, specific passing situation versus running situation. I do think there is a lot to be said for having Bernard's athleticism on the field against this opponent. But it's just funny how quickly Shaq Thompson has become, highlighted on an injury report where the two staples of the linebacking core both seem tracking like they're fine to play.
So prior to the game in Carolina, Chris Brown and Eric Wood were telling a story on how they were speaking with Anish Sharaff. Anish is the play-by-play man of the Panthers. And they said something along the lines of, Shaq Thompson, because he's Panther, and they would know who he is. They were talking about him. And Chris and Eric said something like, Shaq Thompson has been our most consistent linebacker in Buffalo. And Anish kind of rolled his eyes like, wow, that's not good. And I understand that from that standpoint. And I'll tell you, when they signed him back in May after the draft, I was like, okay, depth guy, veteran guy. They love having veteran guys around. Kind of really
guy,
helps. Push guys through. They know how things are done, the operation. So push guys, through camp and all that, and then they'll let them loose. And then as training camp, even as spring workouts went on and OTAs and minicamp, I think I even came on here with you guys going, I think he might have a bit of a role here. He's got a shot to make the team. Then when it came time for training camp preseason, I'm like, oh, Shaq Thompson's playing on this team. Like they have designs for him. He's playing, and he was doing a lot of things. Now, that's different than saying he was doing them well. I could tell that they were having a plan for him. I'll go back to Sunday now. I mean, he was good. He was good. Yeah. He did everything he was supposed to do. He's in the right spot. And this is against, though, a really, really terrific run team where a guy like Shaq Thompson can help in that regard. This game is different. This is not a team that's going to bully you running the ball the way that Carolina wants to. And in fact, Isaiah Pacheco's probably out. They'll use Kareem Hunt, and that becomes a bit more of a power game. They'll use Brashard Smith, so he's got obviously a lot of different traits to him. But this isn't the same team. This is a team here that's going to have a lot of athleticism on the field, a lot of speed on the field. Patrick Mahomes is going to be a scrambler. I'm not telling you Shaq Thompson isn't as valuable against the Kansas City Chiefs the way he's playing, but I will say matchup-wise, I think Terrel Bernard is a guy that might be more effective in this particular matchup than Shaq Thompson.
I almost want to hesitate to ask this because it might just be ridiculous sounding. What does limited for a kicker look like? Like, is he kicking one ball and it, ow, or is it just I'm stretching, but I'm not? Like, there's some number of kicks that would be like the full amount in a regular practice, and this was less than that maybe by rule?
Essentially, Mike, that's right. I mean, essentially the rule is if the player does not take 100% of his normal reps due to any sort of injury he's dealing with, you have to list him as limited. So that's what it is. So whatever that normal amount would have been, if they said, hey, we're going to back off him for a few, I don't even know if it has to be a certain, like, I'm not going to tell you, like, they have a 150 kicks in a practice or even 25 kicks in a practice, but it's he just didn't do what he normally would do, but he still got some work in, they're going to call him limited.
Okay. Well, they didn't sign anybody, and there's no Bass update, right?
No Bass update. They didn't sign anybody. And I would say you could also look at it as this. He could have done all his kicking work and not done kickoffs, or vice versa.
Yep.
He could have done kickoffs and no field goals. That could also
Yeah.
be something where you could list somebody as limited.
All right, well, not that you need my help, but put on your list to ask McDermott about Tyler Bass.
You kinda,
I will.
you kind of want.
Well, we might find out something tomorrow. With Tyler Bass by the time he joins me. You're right.
If he comes on and tells you he's out for this game, then naturally you're going to find out something because they're either going to sign a guy or Bass is going to be kicking on Sunday.
You might need Prater for both equally. Like, it's not just if he kicks off but not kicks, for points. It's not good. You have to have him for both unless it's Ray Davis time or something like that. But I doubt you're going into the Chiefs game with Ray Davis kicking off.
Me too.
You get somebody else.
I don't think that's happening.
If this guy's not healthy.
Yeah.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her hotline. Yesterday when we talked, you put Gabe Davis being not quite activated per se, but up a step on the practice squad as the number one development from the day. How likely is it to you that he plays Sunday?
If I had to get a percentage, I would probably say 25%. And that would normally be lower in this situation, right? Normally I'd be like, yeah, he ain't playing. Like they're gonna ease him back in. I am totally gun shy of that now because of what happened with Max Hairston last week, to be honest with you. Like the fact that they did that with Max Hairston, they fast tracked him so quickly. Like he was. This guy was in this huge brace just a few weeks ago working with a trainer. And then 2 weeks ago, right before they go to the bye, he's still out there with a trainer. And then all of a sudden, bam, they've activated him to the they IR to return. He's going to practice. And you're like, okay, that's cool. Going to get some work in, give him a little time. Then bam, he's activated on Saturday. And then boom, he's out on the field of the second series of the game. You're like, wow, okay, 44%, I think, of the snaps, whatever it was he was on, makes me say, I'm not discounting Gabe Davis playing. I still think it's less likely because I just think of history. I don't think that the Max Hairston situation outweighs most of the history of this kind of thing, but I do think it moves the needle a little bit more for Gabe Davis to possibly play.
I feel like if you didn't just say it, with Hairston, there was more urgency.
Yeah.
Well, or there was, let me put it this way instead. There was urgency to get him out there, and, they got through it and it went well. How much urgency might you think they feel on Davis or just at the wide receiver position? I know it's all we obsess about, but do you think the Bills, is this a somewhat maybe similar thing where they're looking for an answer, and if he's physically able, let's go?
I do. Yes, I would say this, Mike. I don't think that they put him on the practice squad and have him doing what he's doing now without the intention at some point to be on the 53, right? Like, I think that's going to happen. They used one of their 8 IR to return on him. Like, I think that means he's going to play. And that signals to me an answer to your question, which is the urgency to find somebody and to help. I guess the question is that now? And I think, though, that if Gabe Davis is really healthy and he can play, I think he plays. This is, to me, more about his health and is he ready to play in a game?
Right.
Same thing with Max Hairston. If they're not going to put him on the field if he's not, but if he is, I think it could warrant it. Where I think they're looking for some answers, they're looking for some solutions here, especially considering the trade deadline is 2 days after the game on Tuesday. Maybe you want to do it if he is healthy and say, okay, what does this look like if he's on the field? What does a world with Gabe Davis as one of our X receivers look like instead of Curtis Samuel, whoever it's going to be? Yeah, I think there could be some urgency to see what that looks like, but they would never trump his health because of the urgency.
Right. Yeah, I just wonder how ready he is to go play an NFL game. It's been a long time since he's played an NFL game, and he's only just started practicing with them yesterday. So and I know the Hairston thing happened. We talked about this a little earlier, and the Hairston thing is it's okay. Be careful, because we all would have thought he would take a couple of weeks of ramp up, and it didn't. And they certainly know Davis, and he knows them, and there's a familiarity there. And I don't know, maybe Allen is eager to get him back on the field for them. Not that he's going to tell you he's feels lost at sea with the receiving core as presently constituted, but whatever. They've had their struggles, and maybe Davis is someone that he could feel like I can trust this guy. I know where he's going to be at least, and that would be all the reason you need. I wonder. I think we did talk this through yesterday. I don't think any of us think Shavers is the odd man out. It's probably a Moore or a Samuel that comes out, unless they want to go with an extra body at receiver to make room for Davis.
That's right. And it could be just carrying all 6. You don't have to.
Right.
If Joshua Palmer's out, you couldn't have 6 active. They've had 6 active this year. You just have to make other decisions around the roster, especially if a guy like Shaq Thompson is down, let's say, right? Okay, well, there's another open roster spot somewhere in the roster. And if you want Gabe Davis, you don't have to just say somebody's got to come out of the lineup. You could have 6 receivers active. They've done that this year. Yep. So, but I do think that if you're going to replace a receiver with Gabe Davis, it wouldn't make as much sense with Tyrell Shavers because Gabe isn't going to play special teams. What could happen, though, is it could be Tyrell Shavers out and someone else around the roster plays that position, right? If that's going to be the case, because with Maxwell Hairston playing now, maybe that gives you a little bit more flexibility. It's something else you want to do also on around the roster with special teams.
We'll dig into the matchup tomorrow when we talk. There's been so many of these. This is the 10th meeting since COVID between the Bills and the Chiefs. What's left to say, but every one is different. What do you think tonight, though, Sal? So Lamar Jackson is back for Baltimore. They're a 7.5-point favorite. I feel like it sort of makes sense to me. This would be when the Ravens, if they're going to get off the mat, sort of re-announce themselves to this season. Like, we're still here. And the division is open. Like, they shouldn't be lying down at this point with more than half the season left. Do you see that kind of thing, or are they too troubled by injuries or whatever else to put it down a performance like that?
I mean, you would know this better than me, Mike, that I think I read they are still the favorite to win the division, right?
Yes,
Are they
are.
the betting line favorite?
They
Yes.
are. Yes.
I mean, I think that speaks to exactly what you're talking about. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, you're thinking this thing is still very much there for the taking for you. They are 2-5. The leader of the division is 4-3, right? I mean, like, it's a 2-game lead. Not even half the season is over yet. And the 2-game lead is a team called the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, oh, by the way, they haven't even played yet. They play them twice. They play the Steelers twice, once in December and once in January. You look at their schedule: Miami tonight, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York Jets, Cincinnati, and then you get Pittsburgh. You could absolutely go on a run here. The Steelers have the Colts coming up this week. They could lose that game. After Sunday, the Baltimore Ravens could be 1 game back in the division and still play the Pittsburgh Steelers twice. If you're the Ravens, you're feeling great about it. That said, they do have challenges on defense, even when they're healthy. They have not been good on defense this year. Part of the thing that happened in Buffalo was the Bills just kind of in the fourth quarter doing whatever they wanted on offense once they had an opportunity. And really, even before that, they had 25 points scored. But you look at the Ravens on defense this year, they gave up. Now, a lot of it was, I know they've been injured, but 38 to Detroit, 37 to Kansas City, 44 to the Houston Texans. Yeah, they should be encouraged because they're getting healthier. They were much better last week on defense. That's right. I agree. And now you get Lamar back. So, yeah, that's for sure. Now, Miami, on the other hand, boy, I mean, I think you take last week's win and say, okay, we can roll a little bit here. But I just think they're such a hot and cold team, and they can be boom or bust at any time. I give Miami a fighting chance tonight. I think Baltimore wins the game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Miami comes out a little bit better than what we've seen and build on last week's performance a little bit.
I'm expecting them to score tonight on that Baltimore defense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you think that, then, I would take the points, and, I think anything could happen. So it's pretty juicy on the money line.
I think Bills fans should want Miami to win tonight. I really do. I think if Miami wins, it doesn't really do anything to the Bills, because right now Miami is kind of buried right now. Even if they win, they're 3-6. They're still 4 losses more than the Bills, and the Bills beat them. That's 5-game lead essentially.
But you really hurt
the Bills
Baltimore.
would have on them.
Yeah.
Baltimore now though you have Barry Baltimore. That's right, Barry Baltimore. Make them 2-6, because if Baltimore starts to get hot, you could be staring at like a 2-3 seed at the end of the year between the Baltimore Ravens and the Bills or something like that.
The Dolphins' next game is against the Bills next Sunday. So they have a little extra time off before the Bills go down there. Then they go to Spain. Good thing you're not going Bulldog on that one.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to drive.
You'd be accosted at the gate.
I won't be allowed to rent a car.
Good thing you're not going to that one. They play
Who knows?
Washington
Right at
in Spain.
Customs, I might just be.
That's right.
That's it.
That's where they get you.
We gotcha.
Right, Customs. They don't let you get away first. I've heard. Sal, thanks. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right, guys, you got it.